I'm Kristen, also known as Voolenvine, here on my YouTube channel, on Instagram, on Ravelry, and pretty much everywhere else on the interwebs. And on this week's vlog, I'm going to be talking about how I choose yarn colors for my knitting projects. And there is a little bit of science and color theory behind this. However, just a disclaimer, this is just a guide. This is how I personally choose colorways for my knitting projects. Your mileage may certainly vary, and I'm not here to tell you what colorways you should be knitting with. The world is your oyster. Knit with whatever makes you happy. But if you are a knitter who does struggle with choosing colorways to complement your wardrobe, your skin tone, or just your overall personality, hopefully this video will serve as a little bit of inspiration and help along the way. Alright, tip number one is to decide if you're warm-toned, cool-toned, or neutral-toned. And the way to do this is to look at your wrist, or wherever you can see a vein most prominently. But for most of us, it's our wrist. If you see that you have blue veins, that means you're cool-toned. If you have green veins, that means you are warm-toned. If you really can't decide whether or not you have blue or green veins, you, my friend, are probably neutral toned. And I happen to be neutral toned. So if you are, welcome to the club. That means you can pretty much get away with wearing any color and you don't have to watch this video. True but not true, because even though you are neutral toned, you may have a tendency to lean towards the warm side or the cool side. While I'm neutral toned, I have a tendency to lean towards the cool side. So when I do pick colorways for myself, I generally pick colors that do have a bit of a cool undertone to them, because in the past when I have used warmer colors, it has a tendency to wash me out, if that makes any sense. So let's say you really love the color red and you have a sweater pattern picked out, you just have to find the perfect shade of red to knit this sweater. So you head on over to your local yarn shop and stare at a wall of all the red yarns in the spectrum. Which one do you go for? This is where knowing your skin tone will really come in handy. So if you decide that you are warm toned, you're gonna wanna go for those reds with the orange or yellow undertones, those really rich autumnal colors. Whereas if you're cool toned, you're gonna wanna go for those cool reds. So something with a red with a blue undertone, purple or burgundy, something that's really going to make your, really gonna complement your cool tones. And again, if you are neutral toned like me, but err on the side of cool, you can have a little more wiggle room. Use your own discretion. Pick whatever color you think is going to suit you best. And again, your mileage may vary. This is not to tell you that you have to go with these specific colorways, but if you are undecided, this is a pretty good guideline to go by. Tip number two, if you're still having trouble deciding whether or not you're warm toned, cool toned, or neutral toned, try taking a look at the type of jewelry you wear. So if you have a tendency to wear more gold jewelry, you're probably warm toned. If you wear more silver jewelry, you're probably cool toned. And if you look great in both, you're probably neutral. Tip number three, consider your eye color. So I'm gonna pop a photo of the color wheel here so we can talk a little color theory. I promise it's not complicated, it's actually a pretty neat trick. So for example, my eyes are green, and if we look at the color wheel and find my eye color on the color wheel, I can pretty much go with any color that is next to that specific green, and it will really complement my eyes. So for example, we have the Thriepmuir sweater. I showed this off on one of my previous vlogs, and here we have a really lovely shade of, it's a cool, I'm gonna say it's a cool yellow green. Again, I'm neutral toned and err on the cool side of things, so I feel like this colorway really complements my skin, but also really brings out the color of my eyes. I'm gonna try and get close. So if you can see, I have green eyes, and this shade of green really kind of makes my eyes salient. So yeah, a really good way to choose a color for a project is to find a color that really complements your eye color. But that does not mean that you are limited to using either blue if your eyes are blue, green if your eyes are green, or brown if your eyes are brown, or pink if your eyes are pink. I mean, you know, if we bring up the color wheel again and find your eye color on the chart, look directly across the spectrum. My eyes are green. If we look directly across the spectrum on the wheel, you'll find violet and purple. Those colors will really make my eyes pop. So while green will make my eyes more salient and really, you know, bring out the shade of green, the purple or violet will really make my green eyes pop. So case in point, we have my Love Note sweater, a wonderful pattern by Tin Can Knits, and if I can get close, So if we do this creepy close-up of my eyes and the sweater, you can kind of see that it really makes the green pop. That is another neat trick that you can try to find colors that will complement your eyes or skin tone. Again, if you have blue eyes and you look across the spectrum, you're gonna find a lot of yellows and oranges. You can definitely play around with those various shades to find something that really complements your style. Last but not least, tip number 4 is to look at what's already in your wardrobe. What do you wear all the time? I have a tendency to wear a lot of blacks, a lot of grays, a lot of mauve, surprise, with the odd pop of green and purple. I generally stick to that palette because I know that's gonna go with my wardrobe and I'm gonna wanna gravitate towards wearing it more often. All right, but let's say you do have this glorious, crazy color in your yarn stash and you have no idea what to do with it. You bought it on a whim, it made you happy, but it just does not go with anything. It doesn't go with your skin tone, it doesn't go with anything in your wardrobe, but you love it so much and you want to do something with it. What do you do? What do you do? By the way, this is a skein by Black Elephant. It's her acid hologram colorway. It's exactly as the name suggests, it's an acid hologram. Brilliant yellow. It makes me so happy. Totally out of my comfort zone. What was I thinking? I have no idea, but it made me so happy. But yeah, here we are. We have it. It's in my stash and I would love to knit with it. So what do? I am gonna pair it with something neutral. Not specifically this yarn, but just to give you an idea of what a neutral tone can do to a seriously bright, loud color. If you can imagine it striped, it will significantly tone down the brightness of this color. So kind of, neutralizing it, balancing it out. If you were to pair it with this, again, it's a neutral shade, but it's a bright white for the most part. So you're still gonna get a little bit of starkness, but at the same time, it kind of takes away from the saturation of this shade. So that is another thing that you can do. Another thing is to pair it with another shade of craziness. So again, this is a little not as acid yellow as this one, but it has some of the same tones in it, so it kind of complements it in that respect. And when it's together, they're gonna play so well together compared to if this were knit by itself. So, a lot of different options there. I do have an example to show you. This is the Love You Baby shawl by Suzanne Sommer, who's also known as Sosu Knits. Really fun pattern to knit. I used all the crazy colorways. This is all Hedgehog fibers, by the way. But I sadly do not get enough wear out of it because lots of crazy colors happening and it's just not my style, so to speak. But yeah, it's crazy. It works with my skin tone, but it's not me. But anyway, again, really fun to knit. But here you can see all these crazy loud colorways at play here. But then on this section here, it's neutralized. This bright acid green is neutralized by a gray shade. So it definitely takes down the brightness of this acid green shade right here. But this is an example of what you can do if you have a really loud colorway in your stash that you just don't know what to do with. Find a neutral shade that complements your skin tone, your wardrobe, and pair it with that crazy color, and you should not be able to go wrong. So that is how I choose colors for my knitting projects. I hope you guys found that helpful, but again, I'm not here to tell you this is how you must choose colorways for your projects. This is merely how I go about choosing colors for my projects. But now I'm curious, if you guys have any tips for choosing colorways for your projects, what are they? Let us know in the comments below, because I'm sure we could all use some extra bonus tips and tricks. But as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed this episode and are new here, please feel free to like and subscribe below, or if you would like to support this channel, check me out on Patreon. There's lots of fun stuff happening over there, lots of bonus content. It's just a really fun place to be. Anyway, happy knitting, happy sewing, happy making, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!